That familiar sound of plastic trays sliding down metal rails. The way your stomach grumbled when the aroma of freshly baked rolls wafted through the hallway right before lunch period. Remember those colorful compartments keeping your corn from touching your mystery meat? For many of us, the school cafeteria wasn't just where we ate, it was where childhood memories were served daily alongside chocolate milk. From the hearty meals of the 1950s to the processed delights of the 1990s, we're diving fork first into the cafeteria classics that shaped generations. So grab your spork and plastic straw. Let's explore the lunch trays we grew up with. The Regiment Rose, 1950s School Lunches. Back in the 1950s, cafeteria lunch operated with military precision. Metal trays lined up perfectly, each one loaded with substantial home-style cooking. Post-war America embraced nutrition with a no-nonsense attitude, every meal built to fuel young minds. A typical tray from this era resembled Sunday dinner at Grandma's house. Generous slices of meatloaf swimming in rich brown gravy, authentic mashed potatoes, complete with telltale lumps proving they came from actual potatoes, hearty portions of buttered carrots or green beans, and rolls so dense they could double as paperweights. What made this period truly special wasn't just what landed on the tray, but how lunch itself unfolded. Students sat upright. Milk arrived in glass bottles with cream floating at the top. The lunch lady commanded respect through her starched uniform and knowing glance. She could spot a vegetable ditcher from 20 feet away. Talking during meals? Minimal. Trading food? Practically unheard of. The 1950s cafeteria extended the classroom's discipline straight through lunchtime. You cleaned your plate because somewhere children were going hungry, as every adult reminded you constantly. For kids during this era, the metal tray represented consistency and care in an increasingly changing world. The food might not win culinary awards by today's standards, but those meals delivered something beyond nutrition. They offered routine in a world discovering TV dinners and fast food. These trays held more than just food. They carried tradition from one generation to the next. Space Age Servings, 1960s School Lunches. As America reached for the stars, school cafeterias reached for innovation. The 1960s witnessed the great migration from metal to plastic trays, compartmentalized wonders in harvest gold and avocado green that kept your food from committing the cardinal sin of touching. Furthermore, this decade crowned the casserole as cafeteria royalty. Tuna noodle casserole reigned supreme, budget-friendly, filling, and easy to mass-produce. A scoop of the fishy, creamy mixture paired with slices of government cheese on white bread created a meal that fueled playground adventures without breaking country budgets. Additionally, desserts took a turn toward the whimsical. Gelatin became an art form. Lime Jell-O, studded with fruit cocktail, or suspended marshmallows appeared regularly, wobbling precariously as students carried trays to their seats. The space race influenced everything, even desserts, with astronaut pudding and space-themed treats appearing on special occasions. Milk cartons replaced bottles, requiring new skills as tiny figures struggled with cardboard flaps. Meanwhile, Tang, the astronaut-approved orange drink, made guest appearances, convincing kids they were drinking the same thing as their heroes in space. Despite modernization, the lunchroom atmosphere remained orderly. Straight lines, assigned seating, and watchful monitors ensured meals proceeded with decorum. Yet something was shifting. Television and popular culture began seeping into conversations. Lunch remained structured, but the first whispers of rebellion floated between bites of canned peaches and buttered corn. The colorful trays of the 1960s reflected America itself, organized but increasingly bright, traditional, yet hinting at changes to come. Just like the decade they represented, these lunch trays stood at the crossroads between how things had always been done and where they were heading. Rebellious recipes, 1970s school lunches. By the time bell bottoms and disco dominated American culture, the school cafeteria had developed its own distinctive personality. The 1970s brought lunch trays with deeper compartments and bolder colors orange, brown, and that particular shade of institutional green that seemed to exist nowhere else in nature. What's more, the food itself embraced the decade's flair for the dramatic. Sloppy Joes splashed across buns with reckless abandon. Beefaroni delivered pasta with a tangy tomato kick. Salisbury steak, that curious hybrid between hamburger and mystery meat, arrived swimming in gravy so glossy you could practically see your reflection. Even so, vegetables took a decidedly uninspired turn. The 1970s cafeteria vegetable came from a can, heated to a temperature best described as lukewarm at best. Green beans maintained their army green color regardless of how long they'd been sitting in the steam table. Corn kernels floated in a yellowish liquid, and those peculiarly vibrant beets? They remained untouched, their perfect circles forming artistic patterns as trays turned to the dishwashing station. As a result, dessert became the highlight of many lunch periods. Chocolate pudding served in small cups developed a cult following. If you were lucky enough to attend a school where pudding cups came with whipped topping, your social status elevated instantly. Make no mistake, pudding was currently in the 1970s cafeteria economy. Fridays followed their own sacred rhythm. The unmistakable scent of fish sticks announced the end of the week as reliably as any calendar. Served alongside macaroni and cheese or tater tots, these breaded fish portions occupied a strange place in cafeteria culture, simultaneously dreaded and celebrated, depending entirely on whether your school's deep fryers achieved the perfect crispy exterior. By the time the 1970s reached their disco fueled conclusion, the cafeteria had transformed from a place of quiet consumption to a social hub. Food trading evolved into complex negotiations. Lunch monitors found themselves increasingly overwhelmed. Take this. A simple pudding cup could launch a trading sequence involving multiple students and culminating in someone triumphantly possessing two desserts. True wealth by elementary school standards. The 1970s tray held more than just food. It contained the seeds of cafeteria culture as we know it today, a place where eating ranked second to the social ecosystem that evolved around those compartmentalized plastic trays. The pop culture plates, 1980s school lunches. Then came the decade of big hair and bigger personalities, bringing with it the golden age of processed cafeteria food. The 1980s elevated school lunch to pop culture status, turning certain menu items into legends that still spark heated debates among those who experienced them firsthand. Above all stood the rectangular pizza, a culinary curiosity that defied conventional pizza logic. The crust resembled cardboard that had been briefly exposed to heat. The cheese maintained a semi solid state somewhere between melted and plastic. Yet somehow, against all odds, this geometrically perfect rectangle became the most anticipated meal in cafeteria history. For instance, on pizza day, the lunchroom energy shifted. Students who normally brought lunch from home mysteriously forgot their brown bags. The lines stretched longer, moved slower, and contained more hopeful faces than any other day of the week. No one could explain why this particular food item inspired such devotion, but the evidence was clear. Rectangular pizza had achieved cult status. Accompanying this beloved main course, typically a pile of fries, sometimes straight, occasionally curled if your school was particularly trendy. A small cup of vegetables maintained the pretense of nutrition, though these were ceremonial at best, often returned to the kitchen untouched. Indeed, dessert options expanded dramatically during this decade. Ice cream cups with those tiny wooden spoons that always splintered halfway through eating became status symbols. Fruit cocktails swam in syrup so sweet it made teeth hurt. Cookie Day meant chocolate chip delights with that distinctive mass produced chewiness impossible to replicate at home. Drink options evolved as well. Chocolate milk remained the gold standard. The fruit punch in small cartons gained popularity despite their structural weakness. The corners inevitably leaked, creating sticky backpack disasters throughout America. Let me be clear, the 1980s cafeteria wasn't just about eating. It transformed into a social arena where trapper keepers and slap bracelets found temporary homes on tables, where hairstyles competed for height, and where the social hierarchy revealed itself through seating arrangements more complex than royal court protocols. Music from radio carts filled some lunchrooms, adding a soundtrack to midday meals. Conversations grew louder, fashion statements bolder. Lunch monitors increasingly resembled referees in a game they couldn't possibly control, which led to new cafeteria rules emerging weekly, each one an attempt to maintain order in a space that had become the social center of school life. These colorful plastic trays from the 1980s held more than just rectangular pizza and chocolate milk. They carried the weight of social expectation, the joy of Friday treats, and sometimes the crushing disappointment of sitting alone while everyone else seemed to belong. For kids during this neon decade, lunch wasn't just a meal. It was a daily lesson in navigating the complicated world of adolescent society. Loving this trip down the lunch line? Don't forget to hit that like button if you've ever traded your dessert for extra fries, and drop your favorite cafeteria memory in the comments below. We've got even more tasty nostalgia coming up, so stick around. Technicolor trays, 1990s school lunches. By the 1990s, this lunch tray had evolved into a riot of color and convenience. Bright plastic in purple, teal, and that inexplicable shade of orange pink dominated cafeteria aesthetics. The compartments grew more defined, as if the decade's obsession with organization extended even to food separation. Meanwhile, the cafeteria landscape underwent a revolution when Lunchables stormed the scene. Suddenly, bringing lunch from home became cool again if that lunch came in a yellow box containing precisely arranged crackers, processed cheese circles, and suspiciously pink meat slices. The DIY lunch concept transformed some tables into assembly line, where kids meticulously constructed cracker sandwiches with surgical precision. Nevertheless, cafeteria staples persisted. Chicken nuggets, those mysteriously shaped protein pieces, became weekly features. Corn dogs arrived wrapped in paper, the stick creating an immediate play opportunity despite repeated warnings not to use them as swords. Mac and cheese took on a distinctly fluorescent hue that bore little resemblance to anything created in home kitchens. For this reason, side dishes evolved to match the decade's playful approach to food. Smiley faced potatoes grinning up from trays. Their frozen expression maintained eerie cheerfulness even when only half cooked. Mixed vegetables appeared in more vibrant colors thanks to flash freezing technology, though this visual improvement rarely translated to increased consumption. Therefore, dessert options expanded exponentially. Schools embraced packaged treats, gushers, Dunkaroos, and brownies so dense they defied physics. The line between dessert and afternoon snack blurred as trading economies became increasingly sophisticated. A single cosmic brownie could command multiple fruit cups in the complex bartered system that flourished under fluorescent lights. At the same time, beverage choices multiplied beyond recognition. Capri Sun pouches required specific stabbing techniques that separated novices from experts. Flavored milks expanded beyond chocolate to include strawberry and occasionally bizarre limited editions like banana or orange cream. Juice boxes promised 10% real juice while delivering sugar rushes that teachers dreaded before afternoon lessons. Later in the decade, health initiatives began making tentative appearances. Salad bars emerging in some progressive districts, though lettuce often wilted under heat lamps, and ranch dressing consumption negated any nutritional benefits. Fresh fruit made occasional appearances, typically in the form of apples so shiny they looked artificial. Eventually, the 1990s cafeteria transcended its food service origins to become a multifunctional space. Homework got finished, or copied, minutes before class. Friendships formed and dissolved over spilled milk. Gossip spread faster than mystery meat gravy. The tray itself became a canvas for creative destruction. Milk cartons folded into projectiles, napkins formed into food balls, and straws became tools for launching peas toward unsuspecting targets. After that, the sounds defined the experience as much as flavors. Hundreds of simultaneous conversations creating a wall of noise, punctuated by occasional laughter, explosions, and the distinct clatter of dropped trays, followed by the traditional round of applause. Lunch monitors patrolled with increasing frustration, armed with paper towels and stern looks that accomplished little against the chaotic energy of sugar fueled youth. Take this: the 1990s cafeteria wasn't just serving lunch, it operated as a command center for youth culture, a daily convention where fashion was judged, social alliances shifted, and food occasionally got eaten. Those trays, with their bright colors and defined borders, contained more than just nuggets and fries. They held the entire complicated world of growing up. When we think back to cafeteria classics, the pizza, the cookies, the corn dogs, we're really remembering who we were in those moments before we grew up and left our trays behind. Here's to those trays of yesterday, their colors, their compartments, and the quiet memories they carried. Gone from tables, but never from the stories we still tell. Because sometimes a simple plastic tray becomes something more, a time capsule of youth, served with a side of nostalgia and chocolate milk. So next time you catch a whiff of cafeteria pizza or hear the clatter of trays, remember it wasn't just lunch. It was a slice of childhood we all shared. Thanks for watching. If this nostalgic bite hit home, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for more throwback goodness. And don't miss our next video, where we sneak into the kitchens of U.S. presidents to uncover what they really ate. From popcorn quirks to presidential pie favorites, it's a menu full of surprises. Until next time, keep those memories fresh.